Hey friends, welcome back. Tim here, of course. Gamma Viti. Fun one today. I'm going to show you my new awning bracket. I call it the layover bracket. Gives you a chance to let your awning lay over the top of your roof rack. A couple neat advantages there, a couple uniques that no one else is doing. I can't wait to jump in. Let's go. So here's the bracket. Uses our same awning plate that we're using for, our Mighty brackets, a couple other products. So repurposing that there with intent. And a nice thick 10 gauge steel base plate now that's going to mount to your roof rack. And I'm using these little spring detent balls. So when this is vertical, basically the interference of this plate and this plate, don't allow it to overextend. So it stays at that 90. And then when it collapses, this goes down, and then those little spring balls are holding it in place. So pretty slick. It's working. Let's check out the one I've had up top for a little while. So here is my set of prototypes, and I've got about 1,500, maybe 2,000 miles on these. At least 600 of that was on dirt and somewhat abusive driving too. So I really wanted to test this. I did managed to fatigue it a little bit. I got this to bend a little bit over, so that was one of the reasons that drove the material thickness change there. But benefit there is it just sits on the rack, so it really can't go anywhere. But just something I have noticed and want to acknowledge there. Nice and rusty. I didn't bother powder coating or doing any treatment there. But this guy has been working. Here it is compared to a new one. But as you can see, this still goes up and down just like we want it to. So it snaps into place and then opens right up. So there we go. Assembly on these is really quite simple, but I think for now I'm going to ship these assembled and ready to go just to make it easier. I already pressed these bushings in, and you can see there's a series of holes on the awning plate. They're all evenly spaced, every 3/4 of an inch. So, but that top one is what's going to line up with these balls. See if I can get that guy to snap in here. Yeah, so those are snapped together. And then on the other side, pretty standard at this point, just some 1/4-20 bolts. We pop this open. And you can see we're running a nylon washer between those two. So allows it to swing as a hinge. Of course, nylock nuts, so this will not come loose as this operates. And that's really it. A couple bolts that are going to bolt it to the rack. And we're done. So operation, when the awning's upright, this is as far out as it can go, holds it at a 90, and when you want the awning shut, this just closes, and here we go. Little balls snap. I also added a little safety hole. You can see through there. Let me show you another bracket here, just loose. There you go, little safety hole. If you're somebody who likes to worry about things flying open, you can put another pin in there, you could put a bolt in there, you could put a big hasp through there, really whatever you wanted to do to give you a little more security in the down position with that awning. So far, I have not noticed the awning move whatsoever, and that is on all terrain, at all speeds, etc. But of course, your results may differ. And then a couple things with the operation of these little ball detents. We are dealing with some somewhat tight tolerance things going on here, and maybe not the most controlled setup for bending sheet metal. So possibly you want to tweak this yourself. If you just don't love the engagement you're getting there, one option is, to make it looser. You could put this in your bench vise and just squeeze it and overbend those a little bit. Alternatively, you could take a crescent wrench and put that on this face and then literally pry that out. And we're just talking like a degree, if that. But if you see that may be hitting the brass instead of hitting the hitting the ball, you can tweak it a little bit that way. But I think once you get it dialed in, they should snap together and work pretty well. One other thing is I noticed I can over smash it. If you see that, you know, there it's on the ball and there it's a little bit further. So we may put a little rubber bumper in there or something. And of course, if you want to, you know, by all means, stick a little bumper on there, similar to what we're doing like on our fairings or something. But I don't know that it's necessary. I think metal parts are great because, you know, they bang together and you can bend them, and they get bent weird, you can bend them back. So I think that's a feature. But let me know your feedback once you jump into this, how that's working for you. And as far as installation on the rack goes, pretty simple. Pick a couple holes. Now we're using some aluminum spacer washers. See that right there? With an extra washer stacked up, and that is just to meet that gap. Because I wanted this standoff, right? I wanted this to slide over the edge on the Gamma VD racks. And we know those plates are recessed a little bit. So that's why we put those little side rails on there. But I didn't want you to be able to bend that plate down when you were tightening this, because I wanted it to be very tight. So we just put the spacers in there so that everything is going to sandwich in nice and mechanical there. So that's what that is all about. And then, of course, you're just going to use the 2 bolts that came with your awning to find 2 slots in the awning plate and bolt it up. Going back in time, here's a look at a new bracket bolted to the rack. And this guy's ready to go. If you've been following the videos, seeing some of the things on the site, you've probably seen this trick where we are putting this 1-inch sprinkler tubing. You know, I've made it here. I'm doing some wire routing using a couple pieces of it. We use this in multiple ways, but one is you could use this as a little bushing. I can do this with one hand here. Snap that around the rack. There it goes. And then I could slide that over and basically sneak it under here. Is just enough room to put that in there. And that would be a great way to sort of reinforce the bracket. But also, if there was going to be any kind of fatigue on any of these things, it'll just kind of dampen that. So I might sneak that in there real quick. Sorry, just too many things to do with one hand. So that's what that looks like sitting there. And now when this comes forward, if this were to really get overloaded and I'm pulling on this, you can see we're kind of going against our plastic bushing here. So neat, cheap, easy way to reinforce that whole thing. And then when you go to install your awning, just push them down. I mean, you don't have to lock them in, but just put them flat. And that way, we get this awning here. You really just have to lift this up onto the roof rack. There we go. Get all the weight on the rack. And then I can just roll this over and then just line up my bolts here. Just show you what I did there. I got my bolts ready to go, and they're just sitting on that plate. And so now I know all I have to do is line that bolt up with that slot, and then I can flip this thing up, and that awning is going to stay put. So pretty easy to install. I'll show you how to do it. I got my awning up here, and it fell down, but that's okay. My zipper's up top, right? This is upside down. So I'm going to line up what is going to be my top bolt with the furthest slot in on both sides. So there. Okay, that front one's lined up, and I'll just lift the back one. Now that back one's lined up. Now as I rock it down, I can wiggle the other 2 bolts into position. Okay, so now that's in there. No nuts are on it though, but those bolts are in the slots, and so that will allow me now to tip this up and then reach around and put a nut on the back side. And that's pretty simple. So just barely started. You know, I'll go ahead and put the bottom one on since we're standing here looking at it. But you know, it's pretty easy. I just, as you saw, line them up, stick the studs through, and then I can reach under and put that nut on. So I'm just going to zip these down, and we're done. There it is, bolted up, nice and straight, looking good. However, one last tip I'll give you on the install: when you flip this over the first time, maybe don't slam it, because there's a chance things aren't going to line up. So you see how that, you know, we're off. So couple tweaks there that we can do. When this went to close, you know, this edge was landing on top of here, so this needs to move this way. We can loosen this and just twist this a little bit. It's probably the easiest way. You also have clearance in these to loosen the base and twist that a little bit. So just know that you might need a little bit of massaging to get these dialed in before you're off and running the first time. Anytime you're driving with an awning, you notice that you can see it in the mirror. And one of the things I noticed immediately with this layover bracket is how that goes away. Check it out. Let me flip that over. All right, so same view really, but now there's less awning sticking out, which I think has a couple cool advantages. The obvious one is just being more tucked in. So your trail has a lot of trees or maybe some big scary rocks that, you know, you're trying to not scrape the awning on or keep the body off. Having this in this position instead of that position gives you a nice advantage. It just kind of, it tucks it up out of the way. Now, I will go on record saying it tucks it in nice, but I probably wouldn't go and say it makes it that much lower. So if you're looking to like get into a parking garage or something and you think this is going to solve that, maybe, maybe not. You know, this is a fairly thick awning here, Ironman Delta Wing. A bat wing would be a little skinnier. You know, an OVS Nomadic would be a little fatter. It's maybe within an inch or two laying down as it is when it's upright. To me, that's not enough to warrant going with this for a clearance. If clearance is your thing, then I'd probably say go for a quick release deal like our rack receivers. But we're not talking about those today. We're talking about the layover brackets. So hopefully that's helpful to you. And probably my favorite benefit, saving that for last, is I get to use the lower grab handle again. So finally, I got the Expo Plus Essential Expo, and now I can finally use my grab handle when I'm out climbing around on the truck doing stuff. So with that awning flipped over, I could still get to it, but it just wasn't that intuitive, and it wasn't obvious, particularly for passengers who don't know this setup quite as well as I do. So flipping that guy over gives me access to that grab handle. Fantastic. And I think that said, we can probably wrap it up. You get the idea, right? Leave it folded over when you're driving, retain access to your grab handle, tuck it up out of the way a little bit so you don't hit it with trees and rocks and scary objects on the trail. When you want to use the awning, just jump up and flip it over and set it up. You can drive around like that as long as you want to. When you want to go back the other way, just push it back the other way. So I'm psyched on this one. I think we're just getting better and better at these awning things. So can't wait to hear your feedback though. Let me know your comments, your questions, ideas for future products. Thanks again for being with me today, and I promise I will see you on the next one.